Well, hello everybody. How's everybody doing? Hold on, gotta tweak my settings again because it's slobs and they change everything every single time. How's everybody doing? Happy Monday. Hope you all had a good weekend. We're here today, getting back into the stream talk, the extra life, not the extra life stuff, just the PTSD stuff. Although the extra life thing is up there, so you can always continue to donate to that. But yeah, today we're going to talk about PTSD and how things changing can affect your recovery, both in good ways and bad ways. Because not all change is bad, not all change is good. Change for the sake of change is not necessarily a good thing. It's also not necessarily a bad thing. So, and I keep saying we. I should probably bring in my co-host. Let me bring the sultry tones of his voice up. Say hello, Chalice Mike. Chalice Mike. Of course, I bring him on and he's not there. Because he went to get food. So I guess we'll say hi to him when he comes back. Yeah. Oh, I can hear a bang. He must be coming. Hey, I heard sound from the game. So, go in. I think I turned the music in the game down. Yes, I did. Oh, mute him again until he's back. Because I want to listen to all that stuff. Okay. So, well, eventually we'll be joined by Chalice Mike. And he's back. So once again, we'll say hello. Hello, Chalice Mike.
Hello, Chalice Mike.
So, how are you?
I am good. Just waiting for... Yeah, I'm maybe 30% more quiet on the stream. I'm definitely not quiet.
Give me a second.
It just sounds like we're on opposite ends of a room with you closer to the microphone.
So yeah, I turned you up there. But sometimes in Windows it has two different versions of Discord. I'm never really sure. I've got Discord up fairly high, so Go ahead and say something. When you don't have a mouthful of food.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this. Sometimes when you first come in, it just kind of it drags. Yay, things doing too much. Looking right at you, Discord. Aye. So let me switch.
Oh, it starts cutting out, or what?
Well, when you first come on, it's a little like it. There's like audio drags, and like it sounds like interference. But then once you're talking, it clears up. So I'm not sure what it is, but it seems to be okay now.
Patch. Here, I'm gonna mute your stream.
Oh yes.
It's gonna drive me insane.
Wait, I only needed it for a second so I could hear.
Yeah. So yeah, they just put out a patch that was supposed to improve server connectivity, but whenever you're screwing with anything in terms of server connectivity, you're always running the risk of creating new glitches and problems. So that might be it.
Okay, so I was listening to the stream from my iPod, and you're still quieter than me, so I turned you up some more. So we'll see how that goes.
Okay, that works.
And I can, yeah, you're when you talk, you're hitting almost yellow. I'm hitting up into the yellow. It just every single time I start this streaming software, something has changed. It's annoying. Like, just leave it alone. I'm lucky.
It's time to find a new one.
I have options. I just have to take the time to experiment with them. What I'm thinking about doing is moving my regular streams over to something else, and leaving this one just for the extra life streams. But if the problems persist, I don't even want to do that. So I may go to OBS Studio for the extra live streams, and then try like OBS Live, which everyone raves about. But OBS Live is Stream Elements version of OBS, just like Slobs is Streamlabs version. And when Slobs first came out, everybody was raving about it because it was light load, simple, blah 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 blah. Well, so now OBS Live is the new kid on the block, and it's light and it's simple. Yeah, I give them 6 months, and they're going to start trying to do too much.
I mean, it was XSplit was fantastic, and then they started getting bloated and cumbersome.
That's always what happens. It's like they forget what made them good. What was good about them is that we're trying too much load, and then kind of in their ego, not have you in multiple systems. It's better. You have to use one, and you can use ours. Like, no, it's not better. There's bloatware.
I closed my connection to Discord. You may want to as well. You're getting really rough.
Okay. Okay.
Just Discord, man. I think it may be about time to find a new.
Well, for what we're doing, we could just do Skype. Say what you will. I mean, that's what like the most of the podcasts that I listen to, they don't do anything but Skype. No, it's just we started using Discord because we had more people talking.
Skype is not as good. They don't have as good an audio filter for background noise either.
Yeah.
So you get like more chewing noises, more fan noises, everything.
Feeding on stream, you should use Talk.
Can you hear me? Okay. I that's one of the reasons I keep the microphone so far away.
Something just happened.
Peace with Gilgamesh? Oh, that city. I remember. Okay.
Yeah, Stupid City. Yeah, so this is a multiplayer game that I'm playing our own while I'm doing other things. So we haven't made it very far in 70 AD eternity yet. So this is really just what we talk.
So what are we going to talk about?
Yeah, so I mentioned it earlier. I'll say it again now. What we're going to talk about today is change and how it can be good or bad for your recovery. And then specifically, we'll talk about it in relation to PTSD, but you can take that and apply it to any problem you're facing, or just life in general. But our focus will mostly be on that because it's something, unfortunately, that we have in common. I would never say that it's a good thing that you have.
Not that we weren't friends beforehand, but it's not done anything negative towards understanding one another a little.
Yeah. Okay, so the main idea that led to this is something else. This summer, we both decided to move.
Oh yeah, it was like 2 weeks apart from each other.
Yeah, kind of what happened to the summer. 2 weeks before I moved, I needed to just take 2 weeks off entirely from streaming. Then I came back and cut one of I was having problems getting, staying focused and getting everything done. What is happening? Timing in my
strange. Yeah, I haven't. Is it?
Yes, I think OBS is playing a stupid chime in my ears because it has a skipped. It detected a minor
skipped frame or something.
Skipped frame. I got to figure out where that is because that's not okay.
Shut those. Yeah. Hopefully you don't have to just straight shut them off. Hopefully it lets you say only alert me if it gets to this severity. X severity.
I don't know. It's just more and more motivation to be done with it. But it's this high pitched sound too, so it's very annoying. If it was any louder, it would actually be startling.
So for you, the sensitivity to distracting sounds or abnormal sounds or excessive number of sounds that happened. That was before, like, you've had that pretty much all your life, right?
I've had sensory processing issues most of my life. Yes, it kind of comes with the road with ADD, ADHD.
Yeah,
we have a hard time processing out sensory input, and then what happened just made it worse.
Yes, because then you add the PTSD side of your brain, the ultra vigilance. Your brain is now trying to track absolutely everything that's going on around you,
which makes you more like hypersensitive to everything around. It's part of the function of Groot is that he gives me something that I can focus on that's distracting enough that I don't notice all of those things. Kroger was absolutely impossible to manage because there was just so much, and I always somehow managed to be there when they decided to play their hourly refresh, and the manager or assistant manager and of this would be like louder.
Dang.
That music would be louder. And it was just the more I had to check the clock. If I needed to go to Kroger, I had to check the clock. Even if I was going with my wife and kid to help me, yeah. I just had to check the clock. If it was going to be close to the hour, not happening, not going in. It was just loud. I've got a bunch of troops here I got to clean up. Because I actually just took this capital from him, and in peace accidentally got this city, which I can't raise.
Which was the intent the whole time.
I wanted to raise that sound. With that, what is your special relic? That's not bad. So let's put this in there. You can just stay in the city. So yeah, it became a problem for me with all the, it was before I could kind of tune it out, it just became one.
Yeah.
And even if you get to the point where you kind of can ignore it, you're not paying as much. It's still you're still there. One day, almost always have to take a nap now. I can't. I used to. For me, that was a waste of time. Nope. Not doing it.
Emotional exhaustion is a thing.
Yeah, well, and it's the emotional exhaustion, the mental exhaustion from being out around a large number of people. Okay, so think about this. Not only are you with a lot of people, you are in a space with people who are intent on getting something. So they are just moving, and a lot of times they aren't aware. I'll begin voting. Military emergency.
Against you?
Yeah, because I captured a rook.
Oh.
And I get.
Oh, do you? I do not get to vote.
Because you're allied? I don't know.
Maybe. But I don't think. Yeah, I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4 people that won't be able to vote against you.
Alexander's proposed to do. So you have noise, ambient noise of people talking, phones ringing, music playing, and then you have
no, that wasn't you.
Yeah, and then you have all of the people moving across a large space who aren't aware of everything around them. Think of the people who you encounter on the road, who you just know are not aware of the cars that are around them, because they'll just shoot across lanes, and like they'll start drifting because they don't realize you're moving past them. Also, people who just kind of get into your, I like to say, get out of. They just sit in that point, in that blind spot, and cruise with you, but you don't realize that they're there. So, yeah, it can be very, very frustrating. And so, add to that also the social, because there are people that either want to talk to me or want to pet my dog, want to ask me questions about my dog, not realizing that there's a potential that I don't want to have any of that happen, because I mean, why else would I have the dog? It's the thing of
exactly.
they look at you.
The dog is there.
Well, they look at you and they just don't see anything wrong, and so they just assume. And some of it's just plain rudeness. People assuming that they can do what they want, with certain things. It's kind of I don't know the term that's rude, but the idea that you're pleasure and what they want to, they're going to talk to you.
Yeah.
And
yeah, conceptually, it's kind of the, everybody is well, for many people, the world revolves around them and their desires, their needs.
And honestly, parents with kids are worst when it comes to the dog, because they are trying to manage their kids, and they see a dog and they think, "Oh, dog, good distraction. Look at the dog. Look at the dog." And then, of course, the kid do dog.
Mm-hmm.
Not, they're allowed to do. That's what the dog is there for. So, sorry, I'm checking something out. So it looks like this is the only one that can. Oh, we're gonna build it. And I'm going to topic queue. I can get the other thing later. I'm starting. Okay. But and then there's the class where, while the class is still there, the class that I attend during the second service they're very good about managing how they interact with me and how they interact with my dog. Very good about asking permission to say hi, or just bring the dog entirely, and they tend to lower their voice. Another big one, the people realizing that what they're doing, how loud they're speaking, could just add to all of the layers of all the input that's coming in. But inevitably we have the wrong way. You go home It's just, I know I have things I need to do that I'd rather take care of right away, but I'm just tired. We usually spend some time together as a family, eat lunch, watch something, and then I'll just go to sleep. And so I'm losing 3/4 of my day every Sunday.
And a nap just makes it a little manageable.
That's just the no. That's taking out all of the change that's happened recently. We're just talking about. I go to this is my normal. This is what happens on Sunday.
And now you add on to that. Having moved, having school starting back up, having your in-laws come visit. What else?
Well, with the summer. Okay, so the summer, the amount of changes that happened. So, wife and daughter home all the time now. And as try as she might, my kid cannot keep herself entertained all day. Not without seriously. Well, I got some grievances because they declared Babylon.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think it might honestly be Civ that's causing the problem. Because it's such a memory hog. See if I can turn the game settings down a little. Because I don't need it. Perfect.
Except the memory hog side of it, visual settings won't change that. Because it's keeping track of all of the different assets within the game and their interactions that's eating the memory.
Yeah, but things like shadows, that stuff does. Which I can do.
Yeah.
Surface level stuff, but I'm getting. We're only talking about 0.2% of all the frames and drops, but I keep hearing like the audio.
Oh.
I know that on my thing is happening.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that does make sense.
So let's sabotage siphoned. I'll do. Time to complete mission is better. Okay, so summer, let's go down the changes. Wife and kid have been home pretty much every day, nonstop, for the past 2 months. I love my family, but there comes a point where we all kind of just need a break from each other. And I've come from a family where we regularly took breaks from each other.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see, I got. So I am. How many turns away are we? 6 turns, and I need 2 points. Is there a great person that I can buy?
Mm.
No. Oh, hang on. Let's see. Well, I'm going to get. I said 6. I'm getting a scientist in 2 turns.
Okay, yeah, that'll be enough.
Well, give me 1. Trying to see if there's someone else that I can buy. No, everyone else is a little too high. Maybe I could buy a Great Admiral in 2 turns. But that again will 1 point, so we'll just have to see. So yeah, they're home. We had family come once at the end of June, once at the beginning of June, and once just this past week.
Okay.
We've had the move, which pretty much ate up all June and made keep the part-time job. I put a lot of effort on there. Yeah. And also, I had been taking a particular type of medicine for a year, and it got to the point where I was beginning to wonder how much of it affecting my ability then healing things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was putting a damper on my creativity.
Yeah.
Which made it hard to write. As a person who writes, I posted a couple minutes ago
Yeah, that's something that's a livelihood issue.
Yeah.
Rather than just...
Yeah, I have a project now that is going to pay me like more money than I would make from both my part-time job and my disability by a significant amount that I need to be able to be creative for. And it was a struggle to actually do because I just didn't feel creative in any way, shape, or form. So I decided at the beginning of this month to go off the medicine and go back to one I was taking before. So there's another change. Yeah, and of course with the change, it also affected Groot. He was almost ready to pass his public access test, and since we moved, he completely reverted.
Ooh.
So we were having to retrain him on things that we taught him months ago. Some of it is his age, but the trainer, she said, let's push off the test until after your move because he's likely going to revert a little. And she was right. Now I'm very glad that she had that thought. But one of the reasons why I stopped streaming as much is because I noticed that as a result of the change of starting to take the medicine and starting to feel a little more dead inside, I was kind of seeking out dopamine hits, which meant anything that would give me a slight dopamine hit, I would...
Did you start overeating?
No, I didn't start overeating, but I mean, that was another issue last summer. When I started taking that medicine, my weight changed drastically, and I had to alter my diet to compensate.
There's a lot of things that people turn to for dopamine hits. Some are healthier than others. Some are more damaging.
Well, one of the things I used to love, one of the things I love to do, was run. But I can't run here during the summer. I get a huge dopamine hit from running. I love the feel of going somewhere and making progress. One of my favorite things to do when I lived in Europe was go places and run. Because I got to see things that you wouldn't otherwise see. I got to see parts of Venice that
tourists just don't.
Yeah, tourists just don't see. Okay. Great person. Because I just got an air score. I went all around. I just went to see Spider-Man Far From Home, and they were in Venice for part of it. And I just kept leaning over to my daughter who was sitting next to me going, I ran down that alley right there, and then over that whole building right there. I went around that plaza. I just ran. She's like, man, did you see the whole city? I supposed to see with the tour guide. He finished his tour guide. Because he finished the stuff that he was doing, I went in running gear. Everyone else kind of went in there. I'm kind of, I want to kind of look nice, kind of look casual.
Yeah.
I just went and worked out gear. As soon as we finished.
And then went running after.
Yes. He's done. Gone. Like, bye-bye. I'm done. And I had a blast doing it. I drove to Vienna so I could run 4 miles in Vienna. We went to Prague. I did the same there multiple times on multiple trips. I went there and I ran Paris in October of 23. Last night we were there. I went out and I ran 10 miles through. I went around all over the and I finished running up the Champs-Élysées because it's uphill. Ran up the Champs-Élysées and ended at the Arc de Triomphe. So, it's fun. It's great. I mean, it was a great experience that I'll be able to, about for the rest of my life. Had a great time doing it. I can't run here because it's so stinking hot.
Yep, that's one of the reasons why I'm happy about. So my building, the building I live in, this apartment is right next to the swimming pool.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of so I own a treadmill because you cannot run during the summer in the South. You just it doesn't matter in the morning, in the evening. You can't.
It's disgusting. And I remember the commander, there before I moved to Germany, got somebody's re-enlistment thing or something. I think it was actually Magnus's. And we were talking about what we do in our free time and stuff. Mm-hmm. And normally I'm a runner, but this is my season. tell me that because I should be running all the time. Like, no, it's too dang hot. I would have to get up at like 5 o'clock in the morning and be done to have any chance of running without dying in the heat.
And for people like you lose it's a huge benefit to explore, to see, and you don't get that on a treadmill. So for people like you,
running on a treadmill is a complete waste of time for me. People who train for marathons on treadmills are set up for failure. Because running now, on a treadmill is short sprints. I don't care about that. So I'll go. I just last week, Zoe and I went over, and I did a mile and a half run, which is basically for me a mile and a half is too short. I get a mile and a half, and I'm like, great, that's like 10%. Let's go. Mile and a half, especially for the sprint, because it's an average of 50 seconds per mile faster than I normally run.
It's just a 6-lap quarter mile.
Yeah. This is pretty much what it is.
Ridiculous. But...
Except where we were in Germany, we had a road. So it was an app. And I always PT test during. I was sitting there behind. But I always tried. And I always had to work out with the units, like the PTM. The whatever, I forget what they call them now. The UFPM, the guy who scheduled the tests. I kind of had to do drug deals with him. Let me do a test always when it was technically too cold. Because I showed him. I've been running along the I run faster when it's cold. As long as there was water or ice on the road, let me do it. Most people would have to go run in the gym, run in the thing, and it's one of those tracks that if you are trying to get if you're trying to go sub 11, you're going to get busy. It's a track. So, I haven't been able to exercise as much here. Last summer, when I did from early September through November, I was running 3 times a week. I was hitting 15, 16 miles running across Germany. At one point, I had one of the chaplains drive me 20 kilometers and drop me off, and I ran back.
But I mean, you were training for. You were still in marathon mentality.
I was running because it was better than being in my hotel room playing games all the time. Because it was the same thing. There, I was alone. I lacked my support system. I didn't really feel social and friendly. And this was right before I had my relapse. I was seeking dopamine hits anyway I got them. Technically, was the dopamine hit. It was a healthy one.
I read a book on, this was years ago, but I read a book by a psychiatrist. I think it was a psychologist, but they were...
Hold on. Okay, go ahead. Now that my thing's finished loading my turn, because that's when I get the frame drops, is when the computer is taking their turn.
It was a book on cutting, like the pseudo self-mutilation that happens. And the book was really interesting because it's, the endorphin releases from the injury, it's very similar to what people get with either extreme exercise or intense exercise, like long distance running. Mm-hmm. It's the same. It's a very similar set of endorphins.
Yeah.
But don't start cutting. Keep running. Just not this summer.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't have those tendencies to be self-destructive. If I'm seeking the dopamine hits, it's going to be something that's subtly bad for you.
Like exercise. Exercise is physically damaging, but
if
in a way that
it's not done correctly.
Well, I was going to say any exercise is physically damaging, but in the recuperation side of it, if it's done correctly, then you result in a healthier state.
Yeah, but
done correctly.
What I was doing was not that. I found that I was getting myself lost in things that would give me a dopamine hit and otherwise not change.
Yeah.
I don't do it. So that's why this summer I stopped streaming as much, and I also unfortunately meant I had to stop hanging out in streams because I was doing it all the time. So I
Okay.
also come the world I've played. I'm back drastically on even though, well, I wasn't necessarily playing games much, and others there was something wrong with me. I could if it wasn't for streaming, I wouldn't be playing any of the games that I have on my computer at all. That was the only reason.
Losing motivation to do things that you really enjoy is a huge red flag.
Yeah, I wasn't enjoying running anymore. I was enjoying anymore. I couldn't run, which is a few things that even when I don't like anything else, I'll do.
Yeah.
Because I can listen to music and I can just be alone, or I can listen to a book. That's one of my favorite things to do is listen to an audiobook and run. And the thing is, if I'm listening to an audiobook or a podcast, but usually an audiobook, I will run more because I'll farther more.
Oh,
yes,
that's
hear more.
Yeah.
So I'll burn through. I have a memory of books that I use credits on that are all like the Great Lectures series.
Mm-hmm.
I've been listening to so many of the Great Lecture series while I run. But I also have been working my way through all of the Inkshares books, and I've been keeping up with Timothy Zahn's new books because I'm a huge fan of his. He has a copy of my book that I sent personally to him because his Heir to the Empire series kind of opened up the possibility of writing creative stories.
Yeah.
So, next turn I'm getting Taj Mahal.
All right. I did remember that you were working on
it before, but it was I played this a week ago.
Yeah.
So, what about we're talking a lot about how changes affect you. Most we're talking about the negative. We're going to close talking about the positive parts of the change.
So for me, change, I would say when you balance the positive and the negative, it's overwhelmingly positive. However, it's very time-based.
Mm-hmm.
The time leading up to a change, the anticipation for the change, and then the time in the midst of the change is just overwhelmingly stressful. I shut down. I can't sleep. I just want to hide.
Mm-hmm. It's like me on Sundays after I've gone through all of that. I used to not get that. I would sympathize versus empathize. Empathize is where you've experienced it.
Yeah, empathize is where you've experienced it or something.
Welcome to the stream. We're having a serious topic today while we play a little Civ.
Artemis was dead? No!
Was. See, was.
Oh, okay.
But, yeah, okay, say it again. Sympathize is where you can kind of understand the feeling, but empathize, you actually experienced it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just sympathize with that.
Yeah.
Now I get it, especially with the advent of what somebody does to me.
The mic keeps cutting out. It's not his Discord. It's his OBS input.
Here, I can actually fix that. I can turn off the noise gate. So, is that better?
Would help. Let's see. Please check your stream.
Yeah, no, it's the noise gate. The noise gate that I use to keep the volume from the rest of the house out. It also, unfortunately, if I stop talking, means when I come back in, or if my voice drops or I step away, it will cut me out. So I'm still tweaking that. Yeah, we talked about this at the beginning of the stream. I am not sure what's happening with Discord because I have Discord really loud in the thing. One thing I can do is I can turn me down a little and turn him up. So say something, Charles Mike.
Yeah, so that was what if it would be simple if I could just crank up my own, my output. But the problem is in the Streamlabs, the OBS, unfortunately. And so having your audio but see, yeah, it's better, but now we can't hear.
Okay, so
can't hear him. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, so Actually, I was just thinking of that commercial, not yesterday, but the night before, when I was doing the prep for that lesson that I taught. Which, hey, I managed to get through that.
Good.
Yeah, and I was thinking about old commercials, and that was one that it came up. Okay, so you were saying about some of the changes for you this summer.
Procrastination, it's so severe. It's a physiological reaction more than just a mental reaction. Or in addition to being a mental reaction, the procrastination for me when I'm in the midst of a big change is physiological. Like, I was sleeping on average 12, 14 hours a day, and it wasn't consistent. It wasn't like always from this time to this time. It was here and there, constantly having to lay down and it's a nap.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry. I actually, the dreams are one of the hardest things to manage, because it's the time when your brain just decides on everything. So yeah, it's rough. It is definitely rough. I also, you should say, Artemis, in regards to the quality of the stream, Civ 6 seems to be really eating up a lot of my, and I'm not really sure why.
Well, you are hosting this right now, so you have a little bit more dedicated resources than other times we've done it.
Yeah, that's true.
But it still shouldn't be a problem. But
yeah, especially because I have
every day dreaming about Dad. Oh, that's. I mean, are you layering on? What kind of dream is it? Like a betrayal dreams, fear, running away, loss?
I mean,
dreams are rough.
Pick one.
Yeah.
Well, I know what part of the problem may be. I have...
No, Artemis was dead. It's not you.
No, it's not you. I've noticed some issues with it the entire stream. So, and one of the problems is that while OBS is running on two different cores than Civ 6, Streamlabs OBS wasn't. So I've switched them to see if that will help a little bit. I started doing that a while ago because I noticed that Civ 6 did not play well. So we'll see. Yeah, what I've been experiencing a lot lately is the whole, and this coincided with all the changes that were happening. I've been having a lot of dreams that are mashups of the past and the present. So I have experienced, while I haven't experienced certain dreams since I started the accelerated resolution therapy, the work-related dreams that were, making it impossible for me to sleep.
Yeah.
What I'm experiencing now are these dreams where my previous life and my current life keep colliding and meshing, and I'm not sure what to make of it. It's almost like I distinctly remember one dream was me, and I've had several dreams like this, me returning to that world after I left. And like for one dream, the entire dream was about how, let me finish it, load its turn. Okay. The entire dream was about how everyone was blaming me for stuff that happened because I decided to leave.
Yeah, I wonder if, I'm sure that there's a psychologist somewhere or theory behind dreams being tied to emotional patterns rather than specific events, like the emotions surrounding the events. So betrayal or
hey, I'm gonna interrupt you for a second. Let's exit this and you load a game because it is seriously messing with my end. So CBT is cognitive behavioral therapy. The VA wanted me to do that at first, but the problem was what they wanted me to do didn't fit inside their box. So it was expecting me to be able to figure out how to change the thing that was causing the problem. But for me, part of the problem was I couldn't figure out what was causing the problem. And the stressors that were in my life were things that were very much out of my control and were not going away. So lack of income.
Therapy.
Yeah, lack of income, lack of reliable therapy, the stresses of dealing with the VA and fighting for my benefits, all that stuff. We moved back to the country for the first time, to a whole new place. There was just so much going on that when I would go to the therapy with the person. Okay, so you're running the same game. Okay, cool. So when I would go to therapy with the person, she wouldn't listen to me because it felt like if I wasn't following the steps, then it was my fault.
Yeah, swaths of Europe have hit record numbers again the last few days, right? Yeah.
Warmest day since they started tracking it.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
They're according to the glacier record and the trees, there have been hotter, but they couldn't pinpoint it exactly because it's some of the records can get blended together and stuff. So my mood swings were much worse before I started accelerated resolution therapy, and accelerated resolution therapy is more for trauma. So honestly, it surprised me. It surprised me a lot. Let me turn Mr. Bean down because he's quite loud.
That's one of the interesting things about mental health disorders, either Axis 1 or Axis 2. Right? I mean, it's not irrelevant what it is because they do matter, but the underlying cause, so if you have PTSD or you have a personality disorder, borderline or bipolar 2 are really common, and you're being treated for depression, it's only going to be very, very minusculely effective. So you have to have a therapist that can really dig and find out what the core issues are.
Yeah. The thing I'll say about EMDR is that thing is very draining. I am honestly surprised I didn't wreck my car more times. I nearly destroyed my diesel car twice by putting fuel in it. I at least knew not to turn it on, but I spent 600 euros total getting it fixed because of that. And then after the second time that happened, we drove home and I nearly totaled my wife's car.
Jeez.
It's hard. EMDR is it can be very draining. It can be sometimes it was hit or miss for me. There were times when I was just an absolute wreck. It's been set. I have to actually go in and tweak it. So I just basically have my mouse over here. I'm hitting it. So the things that are triggering it won't trigger it going forward.
Well, so his streams are, if you look in the top right corner of his stream, the Extra Life logo, it's a children's treatment charity, like children's hospitalization treatment charity. And so it being so closely tied to children, there's a lot of stuff that has to be allowed. That's automatically blocked, but has to be allowed because of when he is streaming under that tag.
I need it to be clean.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily care. Because there are people who watch it who may. It's like there are very few words in any language, but since we're speaking English language, there are very few words in the English language that are guaranteed to offend someone. So creative and use other words. You can use whatever words you darn well please, but if you know that there are 6 to 10, depending on what you're counting, words that are guaranteed to offend somebody, you could just tell them to grin and bear with it, or you can just say, hey, you know what? In this context, I'll just use a different word, which honestly often is funny. When I hear some of the things that people say, especially Christians, and swearing.
Well, and we're both veterans, and so while he may have a very clean mouth,
no one we worked with.
I and everybody else we worked with don't. But again, with with it being a children's,
That's the main reason why.
Children's themed, so
and
offline,
the defaults. It's on the default settings.
That is so weird. Yeah, I wonder why it's lagging so badly.
This is part of why I stopped playing this on stream.
Civ, yeah.
Let's test this theory. You just loaded it, so it's not like you have to worry about it. I am going to exit the game entirely.
Hi guys.
Hey, how's it going?
It will be easier because Discord doesn't lag and Twitch does.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah, welcome on in.
That's what it's here for.
I'm done with this game for now.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, it was just supposed to be background anyway. Yeah, so like back to the suicidal thoughts, like we have such a stigma, like the concept of suicidal thoughts is so taboo. It's almost like we try to, when I say we, I mean Americans and a lot of the westernized world, we treat it like it's such a horrible word. But the concept of wanting to get away, wanting to get out, like just a simple solution, like that, just the concept, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, people don't want to, you don't want to deal with stuff if it's overwhelming. The problem is we have a hard time processing that emotion in others because it's so scary. It's like nobody wants to lose a loved one. Nobody wants to lose a friend. It's incredibly hard. So my best friend committed suicide a number of years ago.
Right before you were about to deploy.
Yeah, it's like, hey, best friend, kill yourself now. Go kill people in Afghanistan. Have fun. That's not going to screw with you. But,
not at all.
But the idea of it being a battle inside has to be, people have to be willing to talk about it. It's like, if you can't talk about the desire to be done with it all, how can you really talk about ways to stay afloat, ways to, hopes of, like, these are the things that do give me something to look forward to. These little things, it's like, if you can't accept that there is a space between never thinking about suicide and actually wanting to follow through with it, like being ready to do it and doing it, like there is such a huge gap between those two spaces that if we really want to talk about it, if we really want to,
and not being sick, isn't it?
Yeah,
there's so many layers between being sick enough that your employer notices and being, that they would let you go, and just being sick. You could be sick and they'll look at you and go, grin and bear it. And then there's sick where they don't have a choice but to let you go.
Yeah. And
and then,
it's definitely understandable. I don't think that there's anybody alive who hasn't had the thought pass through their heads, and I think we're just unwilling to talk about.
Well, that's getting into the whole stigma, the stigma associated with mental health problems, and because it's a problem. Sorry, let me say this, and then you can go.
Sure.
Because it's one of those wounds. It's a wound that you can't see. It's an injury that you can't. It's not like you can go to the hospital and they can just do something and then send you on your way, and eventually you'll be okay. Some of these things you may never recover from, and people have a hard time wrapping their brains around, which is part of why the difficulty I have with the service dog is people look at it and they don't understand why I have it. So, sorry, you were saying.
Like, you're obviously not blind. Why do you have a dog?
Epilepsy?
It's like, go crawl back under your
Could be any number of things, but go ahead, Artemis.
Yeah, there's a difference between, like, thinking about suicide, because I think a lot of people do that, and, like, thinking about it daily, or maybe even more than daily.
Well, there's a difference between, and when my wife steps over here, I can ask her, there's a difference between I think it's suicidal thoughts or suicidal ideation. Like suicidal ideation, art. Suicidal
and then
ideation.
planning. Like
versus
there's
suicidal planning?
it's a
Is that the difference?
I mean, both fall under suicidal ideation, but
like, what's the difference between just thinking about it and then going to the next layer?
because that's a big step. That difference is really big.
Thinking about it, and
Yeah.
plan or picking a date. That would be the next step.
So off the top of her head, she doesn't know if it has a specific term, but that line there is like the difference between thinking about it and having a plan of how you're going to do it.
Well, yeah, and there's a really big gap between that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because you can contemplate what life would be like if you weren't in it, and then you could actually think about how you would remove yourself from it.
You could even, so there's a layer, and personally, I think I fall into this layer.
I think that's the difference between like being sick and just thinking. Just like philosophical.
Being sick and thinking you're sick?
No, like a philosophical. Yeah, my English.
It's okay.
No, you're good. You have great English.
No, my English sucks.
No.
Your English is better than my German.
Jawohl.
And your English is better than my Arabic, and that was my profession for a long time, translating that.
But it's okay. You were saying?
I don't know. I kind of forgot. Sorry.
Well, is this? I said that being sick versus thinking you don't feel well.
Yeah,
and
well,
you said that. No,
I
that
think
wasn't it.
when you're planning, you're already sick, and when you're just thinking about suicide, just like in a philosophical way,
the term I want to say is intent.
that's a pretty big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know. I mean, it has to be different for everybody, but I've heard an analogy, actually read about an analogy that was really interesting for me of it's like if you're in the middle of the ocean and like you can't swim to shore because you're in the middle of the ocean. Like there is, unless you're one of those.
You're still in the ocean.
Yeah, you're in the ocean. You're going to be in the ocean your entire life.
Just like go off on the beach.
Yeah, and a good therapist may be able to offer a life vest, but you're still in the middle of the ocean.
Well, that's the thing about talking to a professional. The professionals train to listen to what you say and hear what you actually say and help guide you to the same, like the thing that my wife likes to say, what is it? I don't know.
I don't know, you know. You probably don't know that you know, therefore I'm here.
I don't know, you know. You probably don't know, therefore I'm here.
Don't know that.
You don't know that you don't know. You don't know that you... I'm sorry.
You don't know that you know.
You don't know that you know, therefore I'm here. Did I get that right?
Therapists aren't gonna fix something for you. They're just gonna say things to you that are probably gonna help, and you gotta do something with that to make you feel yourself better.
Yeah. And a good therapist will help you get there, but they can't fix anything. Yeah.
It's the whole leading a horse to water, and
they can teleport you to a better place. You gotta do it yourself. You just still gotta swim.
Well, yeah, and that was the issue that I had with the CBTI therapist that I went to with the VA. She just expected me to step into these steps and just do them and then be better. And I couldn't step into the steps because there were serious things going on that were anchoring me down. And
You didn't understand what was
Did she know about them?
what was that?
You didn't even
Did she know about them?
Yes, she did know. I told her, and yeah, and as my wife just said, I didn't even understand what was going on. Not fully. I didn't really appreciate everything that was going on. It took longer, and a different therapist. But
Well, I mean, you were diagnosed.
You also gotta understand, like, she specialized on that therapy, and
they were basing what they wanted me to do off of diagnoses that were done. Well, they were. I wouldn't necessarily say they were incorrect. They were correct at the time. They were incomplete. They didn't take them to the next level. They tried to just give me a label so that I could get some help, but
I don't think they did a proper assessment.
Yeah, my wife says she doesn't think they even did a proper assessment on me. And then with the CBTI that I did, the only reason we did that was because it was that or one of their other rote step programs. And when CBTI didn't work, they wanted me to try, I think it was DBI,
or prolonged exposure therapy is the other one that the VA uses.
DBT, yeah, DBT was the one they wanted me to do, but that had to be done in like a phase. So it was a 3-month cycle, and you had to do it with a group. And I missed the cycle, so they wanted me to wait, and then never contacted me back.
So at the moment I'm looking up CBT because I was curious what it's about. The only thing I'm finding is syndrome for special teeth.
Yeah.
Hang on.
Google search doesn't want to work.
Well, one of the issues that we found when we were living where we were in Europe was that there wasn't a lot of options. That because of where we were limited. The only reason I got to do EMDR was because they had a counselor, a therapist out at the base, on the Army base, who was one of the earlier, she was one of the earlier ones to get trained in it, and had to wait until I think the year before I started seeing her before she could actually start practicing, because it took that long to get them to accept it as as something that could help with the stresses, anxiety, insomnia, all the stuff that I was dealing with.
As an evidence-based therapy.
Yeah, as an evidence-based therapy, they needed evidence.
Artemis, to my untrained ear, it sounds like you have a German accent. Is that your native tongue? Deutsch?
Deutsch, jawohl, ein bisschen. Ich spreche kein Deutsch. Ich bin ein Holländer.
Yeah, I was gonna say that to my ear, there's a little bit of a difference to it. Like there's I would have guessed either Holland or Denmark, but yes.
Yeah,
there we go.
Holland. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that may not be helpful.
It's fine.
That link
It's right next door, and Dutch
Oh,
has
yeah.
some similarities to German.
Yeah. So what did you want to say?
I was posting a link to the Wikipedia page. But I posted I posted it in German.
Okay.
If you find it in Dutch, then you're right.
I didn't actually understand your response because I don't.
I got most of it, especially the part where he says I don't speak German, because I'm ich bin ein Holländer? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I'm Dutch.
Yeah.
I speak a little bit of German, but I don't really speak good German. So
Yeah.
yes.
My daughter got to spend her first 4 years in primary school in German school, so
German schools are pretty okay, right?
yeah, they're good. I mean, they had their issues, like the way they managed social situations was very different. It's kind of toss the kids in and let them figure it out.
I mean, maybe it's a good way, but yeah, it's pretty different.
It works for them, but it was definitely there were some challenges that she faced besides learning the language. She had a bit of an advantage on the students she got paired with in first year because she had done American kindergarten versus German kindergarten, and
So
American
the
kindergarten
difference?
teaches them how to write and say their letters, and it starts with the
Really?
basic numbers.
Wow.
And the German kindergarten is toss all the kids in a room and let them socialize.
Yeah.
So that first
We
year,
had-
when they're learning all their letters and numbers, she already knew them in English, so she got to learn them in German with them.
In first grade, we started learning just writing and reading,
Mm-hmm.
and before that kindergarten, we just play.
Yeah.
We just play with toys.
Yeah, it's learning how to socialize. You know, the
Yeah.
adults are there just to make sure you guys don't do anything dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And of course, you do music and other things to learn, but it's not really focused on learning. You're not sitting still or.
so Cellist Mike, bring this back to you. There you go. You got the right one.
Yes, I found it.
So
Where did you send the link?
he sent the Dutch link on the cognitive
Where?
therapy, and it's in the chat.
Which chats?
The stream chat where you were talking before.
Yeah, I'm not in the stream anymore. Can you please resend it?
If you there's a Cellist Mike in the
Yeah, I'm in
Discord.
the stream.
Yeah, in the Discord, there's a stream chat thing there. Post it there.
It's being stupid, and it says I don't have permissions to post in here. Guthron streams?
No, stream chat. Down below that.
Chat.
Right above where the talking parts are. Here,
Here it is.
Okay, you found it. So let me tag you. So that there. See, he found it in Dutch.
Yeah. I had CGT.
Yep.
I had CGT for 6 years.
And CGT is equivalent to CBT, right?
Yeah,
Same,
sorry.
just
I was
different
stupid.
language.
Just different
Most
language.
Say CGT, man. It is.
That's what the
For
Dutch
you,
call it.
it is CGT.
Yeah. That's why I thought CBT is something different.
No,
Yeah.
no,
I
it's
was like,
just a language difference.
Yeah, but sorry. I was very stupid.
No.
All right, so Chalice Mike, back to my question. So we talked about all the negative changes that, the negative sides of the changes that we went through this summer. So now I'm going to flip it back on you to find some of the positives.
The fun part. Oh my gosh. See, and this is before PTSD, I was a wanderlust.
Mm-hmm.
I love traveling. I love going places. I love seeing new things, doing new things. I can't really do that anymore because it's so stressful. But it means that when I do have a major life change, once I get through the stress into the other side, it's like it knocks all of the habits that I've built away for a little bit.
For a little bit.
It gives me a clean slate to say, okay, last round I did these things and this is what happened. I can start building new habits. I can start building new patterns. I can say, okay, so like now that I'm here, we talked about having both of us just moved in this new apartment complex. My building is right next to the swimming pool. So
Yeah, ours is too.
This mental freedom I'm not stuck in the rut that's already been established from last time. I have this okay, it's time to rebuild my life. I'm going to choose to do this. I'm going to choose to do this, and I'm going to choose to do this because I know that it's an easier way for me to make those changes rather than just adjusting your schedule, forcing your schedule to change, forcing your habits to change. It's already been forced, and so then you can rebuild it in a way that is going to be easier.
Yeah, so as I said earlier, one of the results of all of the experience I've been going through, especially with the medicine change last year, and the feeling the not feeling things, was I needed outside input to realize this, and I kind of resisted it at first, which was not the right thing to do. Artemis was dead. Thank you for that, host. The search for the dopamine hit. And I mentioned earlier that I was unable to run here because of the heat. So, and I always get a huge dopamine hit from running and going around and seeing things because I don't get the same thing on a treadmill. So I was looking for it in other ways, and it took a significant shot across my bow to realize that that's what I was doing. And so what did I do? So I described it earlier. What did I do? I cut back on several things this summer. Part of it was because of the change. There just wasn't enough time to do them. Another part of it was just because I needed to.
Summer vacation in the US?
Well, I'm
end?
not on summer vacation. My wife works as a teacher's assistant, and so she's not at work. What was that? Stop. And that person is home off of summer break. Yeah, there's not.
Yeah,
they don't have the year-round
just started,
schedule here.
right? Yeah, but it just started, right?
The summer break started at the beginning of June, and she goes back middle of August. My wife will go back because the teachers all go back early next week. Next Tuesday, she goes back and starts.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's not the same all across the United States. It's different from place to place to place.
Yeah, like here she gets a full week off for Thanksgiving, whereas in Georgia they don't have that.
It could be different in two cities that are right next to each other.
Yeah. Now the district that we're in is considered an independent school district, so you have a lot more freedom of you have school choice. You can go to any school in the district, and potentially even have your kid
District.
bus
That
there.
sounds like the Hunger Games.
Yeah, the district. Yeah.
Like, I'm not really familiar with the US.
Think of it like a county, but inside a city. A city tends to be inside of a county. If the city's large enough, the city
Like
is
a
itself a
province.
county. Say that again.
A province
You
would
mean a
be more like a
province?
state.
Yeah, a province would be a state.
Well, yeah,
So you
well,
have-
It's the same in
province
Germany.
is
Hessen
one-
versus the Rhineland-Pfalz. Those are states inside, but then inside
Yeah.
each state you have counties and towns that are all managed differently.
Okay.
But school districts don't necessarily follow county lines. They can. In Georgia, they did strictly follow those, but here where we are, it's you can go to even while you're still technically tied to your district. If you live close enough to the district line, you could cross the line and go to a school on the other side if you wanted to.
Crossing the line sounds really Hunger Game-ish.
Well,
Yes.
I say it that way because in Georgia, they enforced that line. If your address was not in their county, you were not allowed to attend any school in their district.
That sounds creepy.
Yeah, it's because
Well,
they.
that describes this state, this province. It is creepy.
But
It
there
is
is a
Yeah.
reason that they have it that's not
just
creepy. It's because the people who live in that district, their property taxes pay for those schools.
Yeah. that
So
makes sense.
they don't want to
That's like
have a bunch of
nationwide.
kids from the other district crossing
Mhm.
over and benefiting from.
I see.
That's all. That's all it is.
Like, our taxes are
Yeah.
just nationwide, so
Yeah, here in Texas where we are, school choice is huge. So they're not as strict about that. But in Georgia they were.
also like provinces in the Netherlands are 1/5 of a state.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like the state where my wife grew up, the county that she lived in through high school, it's massive. It's almost the size of the German state Hessen. It was just a huge county.
Rhode Island is the size of Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Amsterdam is pretty small.
Yeah, and Rhode Island is a small state.
So yeah, the states
Amsterdam
themselves,
is, Amsterdam is
Could be
like
big or
2
small.
kilometers.
So we've gone slightly off
Yeah.
topic.
You sure you're not talking about like South Holland or North Holland?
No,
So,
Rhode
the
Island is a
state
very
of
small.
Rhode
Like the
Island
city of Amsterdam.
It's tiny. So yeah, so generally, yes, a state is much, but they don't have to be.
Yeah, some of them are very small.
Well, just Amsterdam would be like nothing.
No,
Amsterdam is just
so
a
New
city,
York
it's not a
City.
province.
New York City takes up as much space, as much land as the state of Rhode Island.
Yeah, all of New
Yeah,
York
but
City,
New
like
York
the
City is
greater
also
greater
very
metropolis
big.
area.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like not just the city, but the whole area. Like all.
Yeah, well
the
then
housing,
it's
all of the
definitely not
industry.
like as small as Amsterdam.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
By
But
the way, what
most
did
are
I-
much bigger. So the state of Alaska is the size of half the rest of the U.S.
The state of Alaska is so big that if you cut it in two, they would still be the two largest states. You can fit 2 Texases and still have room for Alabama inside Alaska.
Let's see
Alabama.
what Europe. I'm gonna look this up. What European countries are smaller than Alaska?
Most of them. You could pick Alaska up and set it down on the lower 48 as we called it, because I grew up in Alaska, so the lower 48 states. You could pick Alaska up and set it down on it, and it would stretch from the east coast to the west coast.
Yeah.
So it's
Nice.
it's big,
Yeah, I know.
but it's also like second lowest in population.
Yeah, there's a lot of countryside, right?
Lots of it,
A lot of snow, a lot of moose,
mountains,
Yeah.
and a lot of tundra.
oil. It's like Siberia. It's America's Siberia,
Or northern Canada.
or you mean northern U.S.
America's hat.
America's hat, Canada.
The continent, though, is like the continent's hat. Alaska's the bill of the hat.
May I ask what happened before I joined the stream, so I can maybe keep up a bit more?
Wait, we were talking about the effects that change can have on, in particular, those, people recovering from PTSD or just kind of living with it. And we talked about the changes that we went through this summer with the moving and the family visits and
together. You guys live together, or?
Oh no, he lives in Georgia, I live in Texas, so we're about 1,500 miles apart.
We spent about 9 years in the military
together.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so that's where we got the things that plague us now. So our shared time in the military. So I wanted to talk about how the change can be both. Yeah, change is not necessarily negative. It can also it can affect you negatively, but it can also encourage positive growth. And so I was talking about the dopamine, the seeking the dopamine hits. Once my very kind wife was able to get a nice shot across my bow that I was kind of pulling myself in and isolating myself, that's why I had to stop. I cut back on the number of streams I was doing and the number of streams I was watching, and just tried to focus more on things that matter. And I would say it's
matter.
well, they do to a point, but not as much. It was, also changing the medicine. That was another thing.
What medicine do you have?
I was taking Zoloft, so that's an SSRI.
Okay.
And then I've switched off of that back to, is it SDRI, Wellbutrin?
I just stopped taking my antidepressants.
I had been on Wellbutrin for years for ADD, ADHD, but when the trauma happened that basically was the warning shot over my bow that I needed to get out of the Air Force, the changes that happened over that year, the stresses and everything, just made it very clear that the Wellbutrin wasn't enough anymore to help me stay on task. So we switched from that to taking. We took something else in between, and then we eventually went up to Adderall.
Oh, serotonin, okay.
Yeah, and then we also changed my antidepressant medicine because I didn't want to stop taking an antidepressant medicine to the SSRI family. And that was last year, and almost immediately I started experiencing negative changes. I gained a lot of weight and I had to alter my diet drastically. Like I gained 25, almost 30 pounds in 4 weeks.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, and then I turned around and lost 30 to 35 pounds over the coming 4 months. But it took, as I said, I was in Germany, so I was doing a lot of running because it was cooler there. And the diet changes, I had to cut out a lot of things. Hold on, my wife is showing me something. Chelsea, might talk about what you just shared.
What I just shared? Verbally, or what I posted?
What you posted.
Oh, it was the Hollander link for SSRI.
Yeah. So what I'm now on Wellbutrin, what I went back to is an NDRI. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I one of the things that I was struggling with was my creativity. As the bot has just posted in the stream chat and has posted multiple times, I'm an author. I'm a published author. I've written the sequel, but editing through that and writing the next one have been such a struggle for me. And now I have a new project to work on that it's very positive for me to do, but it was so hard for me to be creative that I needed to get off of that medicine. So that was something else that I realized with the whole, and honestly, I knew I needed to, but it wasn't until I realized that I was seeking dopamine hits because I wasn't feeling anything. I felt dead inside. As I said,
I think most people do who are depressed.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, but I mean, I wasn't feeling. I was feeling just like a zombie. It wasn't.
Yeah, well, I think most people do who are on medicine. That's what SSRI.
Well, the way I would differentiate it is prior to switching to that medicine, I was very sensitive to strong emotions. Strong emotions could trigger me. I remember
Yeah,
once when I
totally.
was in training last year, I was watching a movie that I knew the ending to, and I got to the end, and it was, even though I knew the ending, I felt so, happy about the ending. It overwhelmed me, and I started shivering and crying uncontrollably, and I had to call my wife, who's in another state, and she had to, walk me through calming myself down. And that happened again later. So that was part of the reason that we decided to switch to the SSRIs. But the result was I stopped feeling anything. So I started seeking out feelings, things that would make me feel better. The running, honestly, was my response to that not feeling anything besides the gaining the weight. But I felt good after I ran, so I just kept doing it.
So one of the problems when they thought that I had depression, because I'm not depressed. I don't have depression. Any depression I've ever had is because of something else. So in the military, they kept giving me those SSRIs, and it didn't work. But after the military, the doctor was like, "Hey, you don't have depression. We're going to try a different one." And it was still an SSRI, but with PTSD specifically, this is the endorphin that makes the biggest difference. So Wellbutrin, what Guthron
For the viewers,
switches
Chalice
to-
Mike is sharing links in our Discord stream chat, because that's where we are.
in Netherlands.
And yeah, in Dutch.
In Dutch. Yeah.
In Dutch.
Netherlands.
Yeah, so for PTSD, this is the one that matters. You don't get that with most SSRIs. You get it with, there is one in SSRI that I take. It's called Paxil or paroxetine. And then Wellbutrin, which is what Guthron is now on, which is, what is it? Not bupiron. Yeah, bupropion also affects that. And so for PTSD, usually if it's an accurate diagnosis of PTSD, you need something that affects that noradrenaline. No, not noradrenaline. That's, in English, it's norepinephrine.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Language differences.
About it with my doctor. So
Thank you for sharing that, Chalice Mike.
Yeah, thanks.
So
recently I stopped taking my antidepressants. That was kind of a relief, but since then I'm also like way more suicidal again.
Yeah, the medicines, it's kind of a catch-22, because it was the same thing with the Zoloft. It was keeping me on an emotionally, I guess you could say, a relatively even keel, but as a result, I wasn't feeling anything.
It doesn't just get rid of the lows; it
gets rid of everything. But then the flip side of that is going back off of it means
you have the lows again.
The lows and the highs. So it's going to be interesting. But the difference this time is I'm at home and I have a service dog. So who's going to be trained to help me realize that I'm spiraling.
So Artemis, a quick question. What do you do for exercise? Do you have anything that you try to do regularly?
Going to the toilet.
Yeah, it takes a lot of muscle.
Yeah, that's about it.
I wonder if anyone has actually figured out how many calories you burn while going to the bathroom.
Oh, it probably
as a non sequitur.
Probably depends on the day, like what you've been eating.
Depends on your shit.
Kashi, good for more than just diet.
Kale, it's your friend. May not taste like it, but it's your friend.
So
outside of that,
all of the medications, all we're doing is playing with the hormones. But diet and exercise, that's why so many freaking doctors, they just constantly say that. They say it over and over and over because pills do it. And you can't fix mental health sickness with pills alone, and you can't fix it with
Of course,
diet and
therapy.
exercise alone. Yeah, it's like every
Need
little bit.
therapy with your pills, otherwise they won't do shit.
It's a suite of therapy.
And part of that therapy, yeah, is what you eat and essentially forcing yourself to exercise. Because people, weird, insane, nuts people like Guthron enjoy exercising. I don't.
Mhm.
I don't at all. I hate it.
Sorry, go ahead, Artemis.
Like, I don't think most people really like to put energy in things, and like,
No.
especially if you have a self-hatred or
Yes.
like an anxiety to go outside, like me.
Yes.
It's really hard to just exercise. or
Yeah.
go to
I will
fitness
say,
center or-
like, people will look at it all differently, but I will say that it is very nice to be able to show this. That was my first marathon in 2010, and then I ran a half marathon in 2010, and then I ran another
Mhm.
marathon in Asia in 2011, and then in 2013 I ran a marathon in Europe. And I think, when did your brother get married? Was it summer of 2013, right after we moved, that I flew you back?
I thought you were asking me for a second.
Not you, your
I was
younger
like,
one,
Which one?
the one that you went to from.
Remember him.
Yeah, he sometime. Well, I think it was summer of 2013, but it could have been. No, I'm pretty sure it was. I wasn't able to go because of work, so I sent Zoe and Art to it. And the day that they got married, I was out. I ran a half marathon, went home, showered, and then sat down and watched the wedding live streamed by my wife. And actually, there's a picture of the church where you can see everybody in the picture except for Art, because she's off to the side slightly, holding the phone up so that I can see, and all you see in the picture is on the far right side is her hand with the
It's
phone
really nice of
there.
her.
Yeah.
It's just really nice.
So, but yeah.
So Artemis, you talked about you didn't say fear, but the fear of going outside, like exercise being hard when leaving the house or being around people.
Mhm.
Both Guthron and I completely we understand that. we very much.
I started talking
understand.
about how exhausting it can be to be out and around people.
Oh, I think that was before you came in, Artemis, talking about a normal Sunday.
I
how you
I enjoy going out, but I come home and I have to take. Yeah, we go to church, and then usually there'll be a short errand afterward, and just the chaos of being around that many people, moving and talking, all the sensory input. By the time I get home, I just have to take a nap, and then I'm usually down for like an hour and a half, and then 3/4 of the functional part of my day is gone, and I still have things I need to do, including hanging out with the family.
Or to be ready to go to the store. It's like it takes an entire day to get myself to go to the store, and it usually looks like I'll make sure I have eggs for breakfast, because eggs help me keep my energy up a little bit better than, say, cereal or oats or something.
The worst part is
so-
like that to normal people who don't have sickness, mental sickness.
Yeah, it's like, oh,
really
what do you
easy.
do to get ready to go get groceries?
Like, already showering for me takes about a week to get ready, and that sounds fucking absurd.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I mean, it's a little easier for me to go places now because Groot, my service dog, helps that. But he adds several minutes to my departure thing, and everywhere I go, because I have to get him all in his gear, get him out to the car. I have to let him go to the bathroom first. Then we have to, load him up, drive to the location, unload him, and then and I have to be aware of people, because people see dog and they're like, oh, a dog. No, this is not a dog you can talk to.
It's like, go away, leave me alone.
Like on Sunday, I tried sitting downstairs for the first time with him, and I sat in the handicap row so he could sit in the wheelchair spot, and he has a patch on the right side, which was the side the person was sitting on, that said no touching, no talking, no eye contact. So he's right there. And as soon as I sat down and got him seated, the guy reached over with his hand to pet him, and I had to point to the patch. Like, so he would leave him alone.
Oh, it's a
People are
mistake.
stupid.
I don't think it was on purpose.
Oh no, they do it on purpose. They do it. Now, it may not be that it's not that I think he was purposely ignoring the patch. It's that, what is it? You said this recently, Art. The male, Artemis.
Yeah,
my
Artemis.
wife's online name is Artemis, and so I call her Art. So, Art, what was it you said, that males don't read signs? It was something about that. Yeah, the topic came up that they've it was in a study that males just don't read signs. Not initially. They have to have their attention drawn to it. As soon as I drew his attention to it, he never looked at him. He never tried to touch him again. He just didn't notice the patch, even though it was right there on the side facing him.
Well, I think he was just having eye contact instead of looking at his body.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's a
I would
good
do that
thing.
too.
There we go.
Yeah, so he adds a whole nother layer to it, which is kind of that. Remember I was saying earlier how the change can push you to improve. Like when you're running, when you're exercising, the improvement requires that it literally requires that you damage your muscle so that you can build on it and improve it, and it hurts. So going out, having to do these things, manage him, train him, has kind of taken my focus off of all of the things that are around me. Well, honestly, I'm more focused on him and less on what's coming, what am I hearing, who do I need to be aware of. I still kind of need to do that because I kind of need to keep an eye out for people who are just going to barge in on him.
Like, how does he help you?
Well, a lot of it right now is just focusing on him instead of focusing on what's around me. So, going to Kroger, he's got down to an art. He walks.
In a traffic accident. Sorry,
no, not in a car. In a car, he is behind me, and sort of hearing him stand up and saying "sit down," I can pretty much ignore him there.
No,
it's
just a joke. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. But going into Kroger, the red vest that he wears and the signs that he wears kind of tip people off. Most people. There are still some people who just don't get it. Kroger is an Etika grocery store.
Oh, okay.
There was this guy one time, and it was on a Sunday, go figure, that I was over. I had a cart and I had him, and there were people on either side of me, but they were on the other sides of their cart and they were minding their business, doing their shopping. And so I was going for hummus. I grabbed the hummus and I turned around to stick it in the cart. And this guy I could see him coming, made a beeline for Groot, and pinned me, cornered me between those people and the wall behind me. I actually had to get away. I had to push my cart into him to get him to back off so that I could dart out the other side. And normally that would have been it. I'd have been done. But I was able to just focus myself on the dog to make sure that, he was still with me, that he was, paying attention to what he was doing his training, doing what he was supposed to do. And that helped me separate myself from the potentially traumatic experience of this guy essentially forcing himself upon me and my dog. So.
But if you had a dog, it wouldn't happen, right? So.
Well, exactly. It's a catch-22. So.
I'm sorry, that is.
It's one of those.
Oh, hang on. That's a reference to an English language book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't read much. Sorry.
It's a catch-22 it's like.
I would never recommend that book for a non-native speaker.
Yeah, it's a very upper level book, but it's a situation where either choice you make is going to result in, like, you go by yourself, then you're exposing yourself. I'm exposing myself to all of the sensory input and being overloaded and overwhelmed. But if I go with him, then there's the potential that other people will come. More people will come because they see the dog. So I'm stuck between two choices, the catch-22. Yeah, and there, again, Chelsea Mike with, on the ball with the Dutch.
Thanks. Oh, it's Roman, okay.
Yeah, so.
Oh.
No,
But
the idea is there is no right answer. No matter what you do, it's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
If you do one thing, it creates another problem. So if you fix one problem, it creates a new problem just as bad. But then if you fix
there's
the
a
other
better
problem.
term for that.
The first
Wait a
problem is
second.
back. Yeah.
Another English phrase for it refers to eggs. 6 in one, half a dozen in another. It's the same amount, but you're
So-
just saying it two different ways.
I guess you would call that a paradox.
Yeah, it's a
Yes,
paradox.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's-
yeah. Well, that would be better naming for a
Yeah.
non-English speaker.
Yeah, a paradox.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do I
Or
go by
non-English.
myself and not have the security of being able to have him sit there behind me? And this is another thing he does. I'm always aware when somebody approaches me because he reacts to them. I don't even have to pay attention. I could just be walking around, just making sure I'm not bumping into anybody with my eyes mostly down, watching him. If he turns his head, if he turns around, if he does something, it's cue. I'm learning his cues to understand that someone is approaching me, often from behind, where if they do that, they could startle me, and then that's bad. So
Wouldn't there be like better things instead of a dog? Like maybe something as simple as just listening to music.
yeah,
For
if
me,
I'm listening to
that's what I
music,
do.
yeah, if I'm listening to
No,
music,
just-
then I can't hear what's going on around me. And I often do that. I'm often listening to music, but really, a lot of times when people see me walking around with my earbuds in, it's not on. It's just there to reduce the level of noise around. But here's the problem. You start listening to music, you have now lost one of your senses to tell what's coming up around you. I am more likely to get startled by someone coming up behind me if I have my music on.
So there's a special. Do you have an Android phone, maybe, by any chance?
No, I have an iPhone.
Okay. Well, Google recently made an app especially for this kind of situations where
Really?
you can. Yeah. Wait, I'm gonna link it.
Yeah, look it up. Share the link in the Discord.
I'm constantly switching between my PC and my Nintendo Switch. Give me a sec.
Oh.
But yeah, it's definitely potential to have. I mean, it definitely creates its own problems. Having an animal with you creates its own problems. I'm constantly having to manage him, but I can say, and the people who have been around me since I got him can say that they've seen a very noticeable improvement in my willingness to go out
Yeah.
and be social and
It's called
interact
Sound
with people.
Amplifier. I'm gonna link to stream chat.
Sound amplifier. See, honestly, for me,
Yeah.
that would be horrible. I'm hypersensitive to noises.
Yeah. Well, you can change that. That's the whole thing about it.
I'll look it up. Thanks for sharing it. I'll look it up later.
Okay, so you could make it quiet
Yeah.
sometimes.
And
and
when you
then
need to
louder
hear
other
something, you can
times.
just put up the volume so
Mhm.
you can hear things again.
Okay.
And you can reduce the noise so you don't hear traffic, but you do hear voices.
Yeah, I have I have something that's not technology related. It's a special set of earplugs that allow me to, prior to the trauma, allowed me to work at conventions with loud music, but still hear people talking because they cut out the highs, but they would
Mhm.
still allow sounding. Because I could stand in front of a blasting speaker, which you think, oh, wouldn't that be hard? And you say, no, because it's constant. It's not suddenly changing. It's just constant noise. But it's so loud that to be heard, you have to yell. But with those earplugs in, I would still have to lean towards them, but I could hear them clearly. They would never have to repeat themselves, and I would be able to do that while standing right in front of the speakers.
So that's a thing I also have like a lot of trouble with is that I'm really anxious for sounds.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a word in Dutch for it. It's called schrikken. It's like scaring someone. So if someone is scared, yeah, it's scared. I guess that's the word for it.
Startle.
No, scared is the right word.
Oh, okay.
It really scares me. Just
Yeah,
random
it scares.
sound.
Yeah, so the sounds can startle or scare you.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's less. It's
like,
it's
if
less being
it's
startled
someone
as it's being
walking-
overwhelmed by all of them.
Okay.
How do you spell? Hang on. One
Schrikken?
second. Hold on. I'm going to change my language so I can. Yes. How do you spell it?
S C H R I K K E N.
Stotzi, yes, I've got to experience equine therapy at a veterans retreat that I went to in February before I got the dog. Fireworks.
Interesting.
I can deal with fireworks from a distance. We tried watching fireworks when we went to Disney World right after I came back from my deployment and did special therapy to help me with centering when I was around lots of people. And for the most part, I was okay until they surprised us with one of the launchers hidden in the bushes right in front of us. And after that, I honestly don't remember the rest of the show.
So that phrase, we use it in English for...
Yeah.
We don't use that word, but we use it for cooking. But the idea
well,
is the
you
same.
can schrikken egg.
It's shock.
Yeah, shocking egg.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so we don't use it... So I think shock would be the...
I'm shocked. Like,
But yeah, exactly. Yeah, makes perfect sense.
Yeah, that's... Yeah. That was a bad translation on my side, sorry.
No, you're good. I was at the doctor's office. Like, I was going to the doctor, the psychologist, for an appointment, and I was just sitting, in the little corner of the room, waiting, and she walked up next to me, and it was quiet. She wasn't loud. She wasn't rude. She wasn't... nothing, but it just... I jumped in my seat. And, yeah, it's just every little thing, sounds are powerful.
They are.
Yeah, and I was already sensitive to sensory input from, having ADHD. The trauma just made it even more so. So when we did Disney World, I pretty much did the entire trip there with those special earplugs in to help me manage the overwhelming noise. There was so much input. I was exhausted at the end of every day. If I hadn't gone and done that special session with my accelerated resolution therapist.
I gotta go for a second. I gotta feed my addiction.
Yep. You go do that. Thanks for joining us.
I need to take my Benzos. No, I'm back in like 5 minutes.
Okay. Just
gonna take my sleep medicine.
Yeah.
Yeah, the VA was a dead end for me, Stotzi. It was. It's useful for some, but for me it wasn't because I didn't fit inside their box. I didn't fit inside the experiences that they wanted me to go through for the therapy. It just didn't work for me, and it didn't help that they just basically dropped me entirely and stopped communicating with me. I had to find my own therapist.
That's the other thing is with any health, with anything to do with your health, it's like you have to be proactive. And when it's mental health and you just have no motivation or desire or even fear to do anything.
Well, and then our situation is compounded by the fact that some of the things that we were exposed to, we are not allowed to talk about. So
oh my god.
So the therapy that the VA provides involves a lot of talking about the experiences. Well, we aren't allowed to talk about it because we lived in a world that we weren't allowed to talk about. So I had to find something that would allow me to get therapy without talking about what it was.
Do you remember how we had a psychologist on staff in the building?
Oh yeah.
I remember once upon a time asking her what kinds of stuff I could talk to outside therapists with, and her and then one of the people up in Baltimore that I had to go talk with, they were really good in pointing out that there is a lot of stuff that we treat and think about as classified, but it isn't. And we treat that way because it's still for official use only. It's not stuff you're supposed to talk about outside of work, but there's a lot that we can talk about in a therapy capacity that we normally wouldn't in everyday conversation.
Yeah. Well, and that was when we were looking for something for me as an alternative to what the VA was offering.
Yeah.
Because I was still open to trying DBT. They just they'd stopped talking to me and stopped reaching out, and so I needed something else. So we actually were looking up, was it narrative exposure therapy?
I found out about...
Is that similar to prolonged exposure therapy?
Okay.
Where you're
So,
writing it? Is it when you're writing it?
no,
or just-
no, narrative therapy is about. Hey, Killer of Oz, nice to see you. Welcome in. Serious topic today, just as a warning.
Well, when we're online together, so earlier when we were playing, so that's usually the giveaway. If we're online playing a game together, we're probably going to be talking about
Yeah, if it's a joint
heavy
stream.
stuff.
I try to also put the title at the top, PTSD Talk, so you guys know. So the narrative therapy and art, correct me if I'm wrong, is where you work on being able to tell your story all the way to the end without being triggered by it.
That's narrative
Okay.
exposure.
That's narrative exposure therapy. But what Art did when she was trying to find therapy for people like me who worked in a world where we couldn't talk about what we had experienced, and that's how she found accelerated resolution therapy, where you can go in, and we had the therapist on do an interview before, and so where she talked about it. You can go in and you never have to talk about what you experienced, what you saw, what happened. You don't need to, because you don't have to actually tell the therapist what it was to work through it. And for someone who worked in the classified world like we did, that's perfect.
So to the questions, Stotzi, on why would they want to watch documentaries or play war games and stuff? So I can kind of identify with that. In part, it feels like an addiction, but if I really try to break it down, it feel like if your emotions are constantly coming through as though that's where you are, seeing it or in a way reliving it helps you feel more normal. Like, hey, these emotions aren't just me being insane, but it puts reality back into the perspective that matches what your emotions are. So instead of like, I'm standing out, I'm not normal, I'm weird, it's like you're opening the window into your normal. It's not healthy necessarily. The whole point is to try to change your brain's expectation of normal. So watching that stuff, reliving it, isn't really necessarily healthy, but sometimes it feels good.
Well, yeah, and playing or doing something that you enjoy that provides that dopamine hit is very similar to what you get from substance abuse or other kinds of addictions. It can help you feel something that you connect to being positive at the same time. The after effect, both past and present.
Yeah, so the immediate gratification you feel, watching a war documentary, for example, I'll do it. I'll intentionally do it, but never before bed, because I will not be able to sleep.
Yeah, I have to.
Medication or anything.
I have to limit myself to exposing myself to certain things to within a certain time before bedtime, or I will. That's what I'll dream about, and I already have. My brain is already bad enough about sabotaging my sleep. I don't need to give it extra ammo right before bed.
I remember. So after we left, I left the military a few years before you.
Mm-hmm.
But after I left the military, I kept working in the same office, but as a non-military.
Yes, you did. You basically just changed the clothes you were wearing.
The first time I missed work. So in the military, well, I don't know. Okay, so where we worked, it's strange because everybody understands the concept of AWOL, or absent without leave, in the military. But where we worked, even if you weren't in the military,
you could have the same thing.
Yeah, so the timelines, I think the specifics are might be classified, but if you're not, you're not in the military, you're just a civilian working for a private company. But if you don't show up to work after 15 minutes, people are trying to call you. After half an hour, the people that run the place are trying to call you, and after an hour, cops come to your door.
Yeah, you have 1 hour. It's not like outside of the world we were in, it's 24 hours before they'll come look for you. Where we were, it was 1 hour and you were going to jail.
Well, depending on the circumstances, if you had like a seizure or something, you weren't going to get thrown to jail.
Yeah, you're right, Stotzi, and some of it is. And again, we are not trained in this, so we don't know. It's
No,
just
we're
it's
not
just
therapists.
we can talk about
pretend
we
to
can
be
talk about
therapists.
what our experiences are when we watch things that are similar to the trauma that we experienced.
Yeah, and that's why I watch them. Is it gives me that feeling like all of these emotions that I'm constantly feeling aren't strange or weird, that they actually fit somewhere, and that's where it fits, is that really dark reality.
Taste that. I'm letting Art read.
Oh, okay.
So there are vets in his group who continue to play war games and watch Vietnam docs and Desert Storm.
So Art is trained as a therapist. Are you working? You have the license. You're working on supervisory or interim. Like, what is your current status?
One of the spouses.
Just a second.
I'm in.
Okay.
There's a big question mark from their spouses about whether that's actually good for them, but
Yeah.
they seem to crave it
Yeah.
because they've missed.
It's familiar and they miss the world that they were still in. So yeah, that's what Art was saying, that it's potentially that it's just an addiction. It's something that they miss that world, even though being in that world, triggers.
It's painful.
It triggers them.
Yeah.
And to answer your question, she's an internship away from being fully licensed.
Okay, so you've done all this.
She's done all the classroom stuff. At this point, it's just the practical training, like doing it in a practical setting.
But what I say here,
Yeah.
Is not.
When I got married, my ex-wife finished her internship, and she had her license, but she was still under supervision.
Yeah.
Sorry, we were talking about how neither of us are therapists, but we both have.
I guess we all aren't, right?
Yeah, that's
Well,
the.
so
But we don't mind pointing people to where they can, and
yes.
Mm-hmm.
so and helping them find that, which is why one of the things that pops up, it's up there right now, the crisis line for veterans.
If you're in the United States, and actually,
That's
I'm sure there's a
Stotzi. That's actually because it's simple. It's easier to just throw a pill at it. That's not just a VA problem. I'd say that's a West World problem.
Did I
Yeah.
miss?
And and as my wife just said, PTSD cannot be treated with medication.
it helps.
Yeah.
It helps, but it has to be a part of a suite of therapy. So-
Well, I would also add socialization. I think it's probably more of like a 5-point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to really have a healthy life, suffering from mental disorder, you have to have medication, therapy, diet, exercise, and socialization. And you have to force those things. Like, none of them are going to just come. Like, you have to force them.
Yeah, you have to. And for some, it's rebuilding or building for the first time habits that help. So, like with the veterans who are hiding in those games or constantly exposing themselves to things that remind them of the world that they were just in, I would say it comes down to that's what's familiar, it's safe, and it also that may be the only place where they actually feel something. It could be, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's a good feeling. It just that may be where they feel something.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's just a safe feeling.
Maybe. So it's 5 minutes before the end of the hour, and this is usually where we wrap up.
Hang on 1 second.
But Charles Mike wants to share something. So of course, first he's not here when we start. And now he wants to keep going when we need to end. But while he looks for it, I was going to say thanks.
I'm posting this both in the Twitch channel and in Discord.
Oh, okay.
So in the stream.
Oh yeah, I know NN3. It's Dutch, suicide prevention.
In his
I work
stream,
for
he
them.
has the crisis line, but that's
Mhm.
for within the United States, and that's not exactly your locality.
Stotzi, I would say that that's good, but just one of the things, and this is something that I had to realize this summer, was how much am I doing things just to stay busy and not take the time to reflect on, where I am, if I'm still progressing, all that stuff. Being busy is not necessarily a bad thing, but it can become a bad thing if it slides into avoidance. So
Personally, I wouldn't recommend 113. They're one of the worst suicide prevention hotlines.
Really?
Yeah.
So which one would you recommend for people in the Netherlands?
So for people under the 18, there's the kids cell phone. It's the kindertelefoon. It's a special place where people who are under the age of 18 can talk to someone.
That's good.
Yeah, you can just chat with them. If you already have help, you can probably get a telephone that is 24/7 available.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. Doctors,
So I would, yeah, it's called a TOR,
sometimes
the
give you
telephonic
your numbers.
oproep. I don't know, my English isn't that good,
No, you're okay.
but yeah, they can't do much for you, sadly. The suicide prevention hotline.
Yeah.
So if you already want to do it, you're gonna do it anyway, and they won't stop you.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of the problem I have with the 113 hotline, and like lots of times they are busy, so you aren't able to call them, and that's the worst part.
Imagine that. Everybody is unhappy.
Well, lots of people are.
Yeah.
Yeah. But lots of the times you can't call them, and that really sucks if you really need help.
Yeah. Well, anytime we're online, even just having somebody to talk to, anytime we're online, we're always open to.
Yeah,
just,
I
like,
did that.
hands up.
I had to.
Make me feel like a person again for a moment.
I spent part of my weekend last weekend helping someone who just kind of reached out through Discord, another Discord that I was in, and I spent a significant portion of my weekend just being an ear for them to talk to.
Yeah.
Stotzi, being around my animals helps me out a lot. I have 3 labs who know when I'm having a bad day. Yes, that's one of the big things about good things about having pets is they can give you something to focus on, to take care of, which can help you heal. Like you started earlier when you first joined, talking about equine therapy, service animals. They really do help, especially the ones who are trained to know or just learn your cues and can let you know, hey, you're not doing okay. So once
old cat ladies.
Once Groot finishes all of his public access training, the next level is to start teaching him to do the specific things he needs to do for me. And that was another reason why I chose to change the medicine, because while I was on the medicine, I essentially was insulating myself from triggers. Well, how can Groot learn to be sensitive to my triggers if I never have them?
Yeah.
So.
And that comes back to, with any kind of therapy, there's going to be a certain amount of exercise, pain,
exposure,
or difficulty, or stress
coming out of your shell.
On the other side, yeah.
Okay, so this is where I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you everybody for joining. Thanks Artemis for popping into the Discord and contributing. We appreciate it. We enjoy it. For now, this talk stream like this is going to be happening on Mondays. We'll see about
once a week.
Yeah, once a week, and we'll see about any changes during once the school year starts. But I kind of like having it once a week. So especially because I'm trying to convince Jealous Mike to record the audio so we can turn it into a podcast. There, publicly called out.
Yeah.
Jealous Mike, meet Bus.
I'm even looking at the program right now.
So, all right, well, and hey, Stotzi, thanks for popping in and your contributions. We appreciate it. Thanks for all the hosts from Artemis. MS Gamer was there. Yep.
You're always welcome.
So, yep. Thanks everybody. I'm going to sign off of Discord real quick, and I'll be back, Jealous Mike, in a little bit. Right. So I'm just muted. You two can keep talking. So.
I have to go to the bathroom.
Oh yeah. All right. Okay. So thanks everybody. It was a good. Hopefully you guys got something from it. It's always nice to talk about the difficulties that you face, I find. So we will be back. The plan is next Monday, same time, to talk about some more of the things that we face and stuff. And I will be back Wednesday evening and should be Friday afternoon for my Extra Life streams. So I will see you guys then. Hopefully we'll see you there. We're going to be playing some Levelhead. And Killer of Oz also, thanks for popping in. So we'll catch you guys all next time. Bye.